Welcome to Three Takes. I'm Ishana.
I'm Minali.
I'm Mona.
Three women.
Three generations.
One family, unpacking the questions we all ask. So I'm moving to Chicago. We are taking the kids and we are moving from Boston. I've been here 6 years. Rahul's been here almost 11 years. And so it's kind of crazy. We wanted to be closer to family. We're starting new faculty positions in September. So we'll have a couple of months in the summer to get adjusted. I'm really excited about it, but also nervous because we know some people there, but definitely not the robust social scene that we have in Boston. And I don't know, I think it's so much harder to make new friends as an adult. How do you guys make friends as an adult? I don't know. That's just something I'm thinking about.
I'm younger than you, so you tell me. Why are you nervous, I guess, about making friends?
It's different this time because I don't have a built-in group of friends through training. I'm not in school anymore. I'm not in training anymore, right? When I moved to Boston, I was starting residency. And before that, right, we were in school for so long, then we did college, med school, residency, fellowship, and now we're faculty and attendings. So there's not a cohort of people that you've seen routinely or interact with regularly, right? Outside of the office people who I'm sure I'll become friends with at some point, but I do think it's different, right, Chad? I mean, I don't know. You were able to make friends pretty easy MBA, right? But now that you're not in it, how do you feel about it?
I think when I moved to Columbus, it was more scary because I knew maybe two people, but at the same time, I had done a summer internship there, so there was people I knew. Coming to New York was a lot easier a few years ago when I came here just because I already knew people, and then when you go back to school, right, you make friends. But Arkin and I talk about it all the time. If we were to move to a brand new city, the thought of that seems a lot more scary just in the life phase that we're in. Where would we go besides Charlotte, because that's our home? So I agree that I think it's harder to make friends because it requires a lot of effort.
So Minali, when you move to Chicago, what are you looking for? Are you looking more that in your hospital you're able to find some friends? Are you looking something for the twins company, all the above? What exactly are you looking for?
So I think I'm looking for a couple of things, right? So yes, part of the reason that we moved to Chicago is to be closer to family, but I do think it's really important to have a support network of friends who you can rely on. And part of that is I will want to try to find people who are in the same life phase as us, who have younger kids. So the kids can also play. We can also enjoy, friendship with the parents. I do think it's important to maintain individual friendships too. So outside of just the family friendships, I want to make friends of my own who I could go out once in a while for drinks or for dinner, and build relationships that way too. And not every friendship, we've talked about this in previous episodes, has to be one with huge depth. It can just be someone who you enjoy company with or going out with, right? I think I want a blend of both.
And I think it might not be as bad as you're thinking. Yes, of course, there you have to make an attempt because you never know that from somebody at work, you might find a friend who you can go out with and they might have the kids also, or vice versa. When the kids are going to a daycare, from that, you might find somebody who are kids' friend, but you also can have your own friendship, right? So sometimes you can find that and sometimes it's different. I think it's just constantly showing up for the different things. I can give you what happened when we moved to Charlotte. When we moved to Charlotte, you were starting 6th grade and Ishana was starting 1st grade. And, the middle school is a tough age, right? And then finding the friends, because there are people's group formed and all of that. So there was time I have gone in get-togethers where I don't know anybody other than one person, or that because somebody introduced, the person don't know me. But I think you just have to show up. You just have to introduce yourself. You just have to see who you click with. It's just a trial and error kind of thing, but you just can't stop trying.
I think another aspect to this is you still have friends, right? It's you still are in contact with the people who are going to be in Boston, right? You still have the other friends from your undergrad that almost will have some form of a connection in Chicago, right? You're also moving not to the middle of nowhere, you're moving to a big city. And I was actually on a FaceTime catching up with one of my friends who is from LA, lived in New York, and now moved to West Palm Beach, Florida, which is a really small place. And she had mentioned how her friend connected her with someone else. She like bumped into someone from undergrad and has been really able to have a large network when her biggest fear was, how was I going to make friends there? So I think it's also like leverage the people that you do trust and you are friends with, as opposed to feeling like it's a new blank slate of like needing to find my people.
That's a really good point, Ishana, because when I moved, I knew one or two people here and they introduced me to some people. Or then one of our common friends, they said, oh, you're moving to Charlotte. We know Charlotte who lives there. They have 2 daughters. And then, of course, we knew somebody. So I think you just from there, people introduce each other, you know. So it just takes sometimes 1 or 2 people to make that connection and you can really find that. And of course, then kids' school, kids' activities, there are many ways of forming. But of course, if you're talking about the best friend, the deep relationship, that requires effort. That requires showing up like for each other. That requires some time and the trust to build. But as far as you're finding just to get to know people or able to do things, it can. And from there only you deepen the relationship.
That's a good point, Ishana, in terms of like leveraging the connections that you already have. And like, Mama, to your point, I'll have opportunities to meet people just in my everyday work and life with the kids. And I think like part of it is also my motivation, right? Because to your point, Ishana, is I've always been the kind of person who if I've had fewer friends with deeper relationships, that's how I've always thought about it. And I still have those friends. It's not like I don't. But I think when it comes to having some proximal support system in place, I think that's where some of my worry is. Like, I think we'll get to that point, but we're not going to have that right away, right? Like, I think there's going to be a growing pains period when we try to figure out who our people are close by.
Again, I think it will be trial and error because when I think back about there'll be people who you meet, you might not necessarily 2 years you might not feel they are something you can pursue with them, and which is completely fine. But you just have to keep figuring it out.
You know, not to like play devil's advocate on my own words, like it is almost like another relationship, right? Of putting yourself out there, taking the time to like, you do have to start like the surface level conversations, right? Which like at some points like are just like mentally exhausting, as opposed to like having your best friend that you don't even need to tell them that you're coming and you dress in PJs and sweats and you just hang out, right? Like, I feel like that's what makes it hard, is it's like another task almost onto the already like busy lives that we have.
You're so right in that sense. And like, I think another part of it is like, you do have to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, if you equate it to dating, it's like you do have to put yourself out there for dating, but like, I feel like everyone kind of has to do that. Whereas I do think for some people, it requires more effort than others to make friends. And I'm speaking as somebody who's pretty introverted. For example, right, there's like that Bumble dating app. And I think like, to me, that's very normal at this point. But then there's also Bumble app for friends. And to me, like, I have this like slight embarrassment or just like second thoughts about like using that because it feels embarrassing to have to rely on an app to make friends when it seems like that's something that should just come naturally. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think it's like that is also how dating works nowadays, right? Like your relationship may not have been over an app, but like if you think about it, like majority of the people are finding friendships or life partners virtually. So it almost is like, is there a second part to this question of like, has finding friends just changed over time? Because like people have always had to find friends. But I think it just looks differently in the age that we are in.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Because see, I was thinking more of like, oh, like it's normal now to meet like a life partner through an app. But to me, I still haven't like reconciled around the idea of like, oh, is it normal now to find friends in that way? But it might be.
To me, it looks like whatever is just another way of doing it. In my time making friends, you just go and walk to the neighborhood, right? You go and knock to the door. You see somebody your age, you see somebody older, you just go and start playing in the park. You are doing all of that, right? And then from there, then you start making friends in the school, then colleges, then work, then friends, and all of that, right? And the same way now, the way the things are, if app... Our time, we could never imagining that finding a partner through app, right? But that's a normal thing. I won't be surprised finding friends through app can be a normal process during your kids' time, Minali, because it's just another mean. Because I will tell you, I have done and found a lot of friends because of the WhatsApp group or the groups and all that. My mom would say, oh my gosh, do you find friends in that? But it is normal to me, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just another way of finding the friends. Whatever make things easy and you can find a good friends, I don't think so. It doesn't matter what method or tools or form or community, what you're using.
Yeah, the one thing that you said that I feel like, Mom, I'm curious to get your thoughts on is that you said that you're more introverted, right? And like we know that our mom is like very extroverted, right? Like could talk to a brick wall essentially. Because Mama, you were saying, right, like you are able to do that in a lot less of an awkward feeling than like we are. Like, Mama, you can go sit and at a diner by yourself, right, and eat. And like I feel like other people would feel really uncomfortable doing that. Do you think personality traits, what I mean by that, extroversion or introversion, plays a part on the difficulty of finding friends as an adult?
I don't think so, because Manoj is introvert, but I think he can talk and make friends. I think he has a lot more network and friends in a deeper level from his colleges and through the connection and all of them than me. So I think it's not necessarily have to do with the introvert and extrovert, where I think awkwardness come, and it comes to me also, like when you don't know anybody, right? And you're just walking and keep showing, you're just trying to introduce yourself, you're trying to find the interest. Where
Or
people
like
are
you're like lingering behind like a circle of people and you're like, trying to squeeze yourself in this conversation.
Yeah, and kind of say, hey, how are you? So what's up? How many kids you have? Or what do you do? Or like, trying to kind of figure it out, navigate the conversation. That feels awkward in general, because everybody likes a familiarity thing, right? So that's just a normal process, whether you make a new friends or you are in a new business setting or anywhere. Any new thing brings that little bit, out of your comfort zone, right?
I agree. Mama, another question for you is, you have been on both sides, right? Of being in a new country, being in a new city, and having to make friends. How do you also like stay approachable when there's new people to the community or you are meeting new people? Because I'm curious, like being on the other side of things, like what is your reaction or mechanism to when you do have a lot of people, but other people are new?
And I can speak to the fact that you do actively make new friendships, because every time I come home, I feel like there's like another auntie and uncle that I'm meeting for the first time.
Yes,
so.
agreed.
Yeah. So again, I think a lot of time people think that adults, because they have friends, they don't need friendships, more because they already have. But I think it changes also. I think I do have friends who have a very deeper connection. They have showed up in my busiest, happiest, saddest time over and over. And I have done the same, right? Then I have a friend circle who I like to probably walk with, right? Or somebody I really want to discuss how to start a new business or how to do different things. So to me, as an adult, I think I do definitely have a different buckets of my friendship, because for my own growth and on insanity, I do like to meet different people, but that doesn't mean that I have a deeper connection with every single one. The way I do, I have walking friends, I have some social friends, or maybe I have...
But my question is more like, how do you welcome new people?
Yes.
Not like you have different people.
When the new people come in, I will introduce, I will talk to a little bit them, but not necessarily, like immediately they become friends, right? But if I see them over the time, they also show up, they also take initiative. I think it has to be both ways. So I will tell them like, and some people, I just think that I can never be friends with them. So I don't even make an attempt. So I think that also a personality match. When I was young, I was really wanted to friend, so I just was be okay with anything. But at this stage of my life, if I think I cannot maintain, I don't pursue. But I think I do welcome people. I will say that if you're in a new town, I will talk to them. And, the consistency, if they also shows the same interest, then, it moves forward. But if they don't, then it won't move forward either. So it has to go both ways.
And I think one thing that you touched on was this like phase of life that you're in, where before you would, not really be selective with your friends. You would just become friends with anyone and everybody. Whereas like now you're at that point where you do feel like you can be more selective with your people. I guess where the phase of life I'm in is, in general, I've thought about my 30s as my building years, right? Like building a family, building my place in my career, trying to build friendships, right? And I think what I don't want to go down is this rabbit hole of I'm just going to have friends of convenience, meaning like the people who I interact with because of my kids' activities or because of like what my kids are doing or my friendship just revolving around my kids. I do think it's important for me to have my own identity outside of being a mom and having my own set of friendships, and maybe those people aren't in the same phase of life, right? Do you guys have recommendations on how to do that? I felt like when we were growing up, all of your friends pretty much across the board were other like family friends, not friends of your own.
I would say that, okay, I have to find my closest friend. I have to find this friend. Like, if it becomes a goal, it puts a lot of pressure. The best friendship, I think, at least for me, I think it didn't happen because of the chance. It didn't happen because they have the similarity of the kids or the activities and all that. It grew because either they reached out, they made an effort, and we both kept showing for each other over the years. That's how our friendship really built. It's not because, okay, it was the convenience. Yes, maybe it started sometimes the friendship with the convenience, but the one who stayed and grew because there was an effort. And when I say effort, is just not when you're having a party. Doesn't matter what phase and how low or down we are, right? So I think that's where that happened. But it was funny, I was looking for from that person. It just happened naturally. So I think that's where you will be able to figure it out that, yes, maybe it started because of we have common kids. But then it became beyond that.
That's a good point. I think, Ishana, I kind of want to pivot to you a little bit because obviously I'm moving, so it's a natural point where you start thinking about new relationships. But as someone who's lived in New York for how long now?
It's been like over 3 years.
Yeah, and you're going to be there for a little while at least. Are you motivated to make new friends? Like, do you and Arkin try to meet new people? Like, what is your thought on this?
If we go back to personality traits, like I am more of an extrovert than he is. However, he is much better actually at making new friends than I am. And I think it's because like he is like open to just like, saying hi, hello to someone like in an elevator. Whereas like I like don't want to talk to anyone in an elevator typically. Like I'm like on a mission doing my own thing. So I think like we probably have different opinions, but at the same time, like I am noticing to what we were talking about earlier, different life phases also create different types of friendships. So I've noticed that like a lot of the friends that we are seeking or gravitating towards are in a similar life stage of us, right? Planning a wedding or newly married, as opposed to, people that are like not single, not ready to mingle. Like there's a little bit less of stuff that we can like bond over and talk about. But that being said, like we are both someone that like less is more. So, like, having a lot of friends is, like, definitely overwhelming to us. So, like, long story short, and I feel like this isn't a great thing to admit, like, I'm not actively seeking new friends unless I'm, like, briefly meeting people. But Arkin is in a new phase of life where he does need to, like, have new friends because of the new job that he's doing and the new school that he's in. So, like, he is seeking out more friends.
That's a good point. And I think in general, right, a lot of friendships are driven by motivation. And, we talked about how you make new friends, but then there's also this maintenance period, right? Of like, once you make a friendship, how do you maintain it? And Mama, I heard you a few times talking about effort and how effort needs to come from both sides. So maybe you both can talk about how you've maintained your friendships once you make them, especially Shana with you, since I know you're not necessarily actively seeking new friendships. Well, then how are you maintaining the ones you already have?
So I have friends that are definitely in the city, but a lot of my close friends are also starting to leave the city. So I was mentioning my friend earlier, right? She moved to West Palm Beach, and that was something like it took us a month to like find time to just catch up. But it's something where it came from both of us, right? Like I tried to be like, hey, are you free now? She was like, are you free now? And so it takes a joint effort for sure. And there are definitely some friendships that I have had that have slipped away a little bit because it's either one-sided or neither of us have done a good job of the maintenance piece that you're talking about. So I think like the maintenance that I do, again, goes back to this idea of like less is more, of like, I don't think I need to be seeing my friends every single weekend. But when we see each other, it's like I block out the calendar that is like just dedicated towards time with them, instead of being like, okay, 2 to 3 I can meet you, then I have 3 to 4 errands, and then I have something in the evening. So I think when I am meeting up with friends, like that is what I'm focused on, which I think helps it make it a little bit easier of like, I'm not going to see my friends all the time just because how busy we are.
And Maman, you, I mean, do you want to expand on that point a little more in terms of maintaining friendships that you already have?
Yeah, friendship definitely requires maintenance and understanding. I might be in a different phase of my life and my friend can be in different phase. So how do you really be for each other and support, right? That is important. I feel that some of my friendship has got stronger. Some are disappearing or disappeared. And some people stop relating to me and some people I stop relating to them. So that's completely okay, I think. But I think be a constantly making an attempt and understanding and listening to them. That is important. And also, as you grow, you realize if somebody is really doesn't give you that good vibe constantly, will I break up the friendship? Probably not. But will I distinct myself? Yes, I would.
One idea that came up as we have been having this conversation, going back to more of like, how can you actually make friends when in moving into a new city? I remember when I moved into my apartment, I just so happened to live in an apartment that does social events monthly in the building. And that's a way where I was able to meet building friends, where actually now Arkin is playing pickleball right now with someone who lives in our building, right? And I feel like being in Chicago, like there are definitely going to be events like that that are easy ways to also just meet people that require a little bit less effort, that I feel like is something that you could try as well.
For sure. And we're going to be in downtown Chicago at least for the next couple of years. So I do think we're going to try to take advantage of living, you know, in the city with events and going out and trying to do that. But like you both have touched on, it really just takes effort and time.
Yeah. And I think, Minali, making a friends as an adult, the thought itself is a little scary and fearful, but it's really not that bad because as saying, whether it's work, it's daycare, or just in the park, and especially, and you know, there's a lot of ways, or even you're in your condo, like, you know, there's a lot of ways to meet new people. But I can understand that before moving, those thoughts come.
I will say, like, I'm feeling more hopeful after this conversation. You know, I'm not feeling as anxious about it.
Yeah, as we think about takeaways from this conversation, right, it's not really a question I've thought about before because I've been, you know, very comfortable in the place that I've lived in for a while. But something I'm taking away from this is more, how do I treat people that are new, right, that don't really know what's going on in the city or don't know people? I actually feel like I want to do a better job of putting a little bit more effort into new people who do reach out to me or people that I meet, because of from your experience, like, it's nerve-wracking and it's hard. So that's really something that I took away from this conversation.
I think from this conversation, my takeaway is that I think everyone has that fear when they move in. So when I see someone new moving to town, and I see them, I think I will be more warmth and I will be more intentional and talking to them versus what I'm doing right now.
And I think for me, coming out of this conversation, one is just I'm more hopeful that, you know, eventually we will be able to build a network of friends in Chicago, but also thinking about friendships as any other relationship, right? There's the actual connection that you form initially, but then there's also a maintenance phase of that friendship, and it requires effort on both ends. And then I should be more open to the idea of it doesn't matter how you meet a friend, whether it's virtually, whether it's through Bumble, whether it's in real life, whether it's through your kids. It doesn't matter really the method of the connection as long as you find that connection.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode. We know that a lot of our listeners, old and new, have lived in different cities or are potentially moving. So would love to get your thoughts on experiences you've had of what it feels like to move to a new city, or also any ideas on how to make it feel easier. You can reach out to us on our Instagram page at 3takes, email us at connect@3takes.com, or visit our website at 3takes.com.
Thanks for joining us on 3 Takes. If something we shared sparked a new thought or opened up a conversation with someone you love, we want to hear about it. DM us on Instagram at 3.takes, email us at connect@3takes.com, or visit us at www.3takes.com. And if this episode meant something to you, share it with another mother, daughter, or sister in your life. It's how we grow and keep the stories moving.